This week, once more, we start with the news. Iron Mountain raises a cool B, which is what we call it in finance speak, right? Huntress closes their Series C. Absolute Software is acquired for $870 million. IBM picks up Polar Security, the first DSPM exit. Laminar acquisition rumors. Softbank loses $39 billion with a B. Can we turn rural hospital workforces into cyber experts? Why we need more transparency around breaches. Dragos gives us a postmortem. More moons, blackberries, and Gandalf. Then we've got 6 micro interviews to share that were broadcast live from RSA last month. We've got Ashley Leonard from 6 Sense talking about reducing organizational attack surface. Mikhail Lacal from OneSpan discusses the challenges of managing identities for automobiles. Eve Mahler from ForgeRock chats about automotive security. I might have gotten something a little mixed up there. Jason Rolliston from Carbon Black talks about CISO priorities and their new XDR offering. Mickey Bressman from Semperis talks about practical steps to improve Active Directory resilience. Dave Merkel from Expel discusses vulnerability prioritization. All that and more on this episode of Enterprise Security Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where we talk security vendors and aren't afraid to name names. It's Enterprise Security Weekly.
When organizations face poor web performance, challenges building modern applications at scale, or need to reduce operational and development costs, they turn to Fastly. Fastly's distributed edge network means your business can unleash its growth potential without worrying about scaling your infrastructure, whether for growth of users, transaction volume, or geographic expansion. Get the speed, security, and edge cloud innovation you need to deliver profitable and engaging experiences. Visit securityweekly.com/Fastly for more information or to speak to an expert. Welcome to Enterprise Security Weekly and happy National No Dirty Dishes Day. I may or may not be celebrating that here. We still have some work to do in the kitchen. This is episode 318, recorded on Thursday, May 18th, 2023. I'm your host, Adrian Sanabria, and joining me is the Master of Marketing, the Mayor of Mayhem. Once again, back is the incredible Tyler Shields. How are you, Tyler?
Hey, Adrian. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you again. Dishes. I have no dishes in my sink right now because I have 2 teenage children that I get to do them all.
I also have 2 teenage children.
And why do you have dishes, Adrian?
Because I'm failing to make them do the dishes. Yeah, clearly. Yeah, we get some of it knocked out today. We usually do a pretty good job of it, but they got piled up over the last week. I just finished B-Sides Knoxville last week, so I've been recovering from that. It's a significant amount of effort to pull off a big event like that. We had biggest turnout ever by a long shot. You know, I think we maybe had 200 people turn out last year, and last week we had closer to 400.
Wow, man, that's crazy. If you think about the numbers at RSA this year and the numbers they're predicting at Black Hat, is this the year that cyber conferences come back in full force and full vogue? Everybody wants to get back out and meet and greet and do all those fun things.
I think so. In 2 days, on May 20th, there are no less than 5 B-Sides happening simultaneously this Saturday.
Yeah. It's that time, man. Everybody wants to get back out and be face to face.
Yeah, and RSA was great. Got to see a ton of people that I haven't seen in forever, so it was nice. There's still other people that I haven't seen in person in a while, like Tyler and Katie.
Like me, that's right.
Even though we're on this podcast, we don't see each other in person very often. And speaking of Katie, she is the Czar of Zero Trust, a captain of content. How you doing, Katie?
I am well. I was not at RSA, for which I was grateful because many of my coworkers came home with COVID, and nobody needs to be sick, especially in the spring. It's so lovely out, but glad to be here. There's nobody who can give me COVID here. Just my cat and my dog.
Yeah, and there was some COVID going around at RSA. Definitely heard about some of that. I know our keynote for B-Sides Knoxville this year was Casey Ellis, one of the co-founders of BugCrowd, and he got hit with it halfway through the week, so he had to cancel most of his RSA stuff after Tuesday of RSA. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, and
being sick is never fun. It doesn't matter what it is; it's just never fun.
Yeah, the strains might not be as deadly or as bad, but it's still not a fun time, and I still hear a lot of long COVID, a lot of brain fog, taking a while to recover from it. And there's I don't mind being sick, but you mess with my mind, you mess with my head. If I can't think straight, I get pissed off.
Oh, that's a good thing to have in our back pocket.
What's that?
Yes, good to know.
Oh, knowing how to piss me off? What are you planning?
You didn't say piss you off. You just said mess with your mind.
Okay.
We're not planning anything. Don't worry, Adrian. We're not planning anything at all, I swear.
Not yet.
All righty. Good time for a quick announcement here. Security Weekly community, our teams from Security Weekly and SE Media were on site at RSA Conference 2023, delivering in-depth reporting, analysis, and interviews from the conference. If you were unable to join us in person or didn't manage to catch our video live stream from Broadcast Alley, access to all of our RSA conference coverage, including video interviews with leaders from the community. It was like an incomplete sentence. Visit securityweekly.com/RSAC. And as I mentioned during the intro, we're going to be showing some of those 6 of those micro interviews today, rebroadcasting those, and we're going to continue to rebroadcast them on most of our shows through the rest of this month, through the rest of May. And then I'm really excited to get back to interviews in June, because one of the first interviews we're having, I believe it's June 8th, we're going to have an AI special where we've got 2 interviews talking about generative AI, one with Daniel Miesler and then another one with Alex Bagrin, I think is his name. He's the founder of a company that basically makes turnkey large language model AI, workflow automation AI solutions for companies directly. And that's I know we're pretty excited about those trends and to see what people are building there. So
Man, the weekly news write-up that I've been doing for CyberWhy is I cannot get away from AI. It is so hot right now. I don't think I've seen a trend this hot in 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back through our show notes, it's just like I created a new category for it. Like AI trends is a new category for our news segments. And sometimes I feel bad about it, and I sit back and I kind of reflect and I'm like, no, we've got to talk about this. Like, this is just hugely important. And it definitely dominated the conversation at RSA. So jumping into the news, check out securityweekly.com/ESW318 if you want to follow along as we go through the news. I didn't have a ton of time to put notes in here, but we've got a good number of stories. We've got 21 stories here. And most of the big security startup fundings, I think got announced just before RSA or during RSA. And now we've got some odd ones. We actually have 2 public companies raising money here, both Cybeats and Iron Mountain. Iron Mountain raised $1 billion in debt, and that's I don't really play in that space. I don't understand this kind of fundraising very much, so it kind of goes over my head.
Yeah, I didn't do the analysis on the Iron Mountain one. I'm going to guess it's probably a bond issuance, senior notes, senior bond issuance. And they're just levering up, right? They're levering up the business. Typically, it's to give them a little bit more operating cash capital so that they can make moves. I don't think, assuming they were not over-levered before the billion, I don't think this is a bad idea. And the reason why I don't think it's a bad idea is you want to lever your business in a down market. For those that don't know, in financial terms, leverage is adding debt to your books so that you can have additional investable capital to make money on or to grow your business with. So it's called levering or leveraging up the business. And it's usually pretty smart to lever when you hit the bottom of the market, because you can get your leverage at a cheap interest rate. You then get the investable capital to either do stock buybacks with, if it's a public company, or to invest in the growth of the business itself. So I'm not surprised. And, $1 billion, I don't know what Iron Mountain's market cap is, but I'm assuming it's a double-digit billions market cap or more. It's not a ton of leverage to add. So assuming they did the smart math on it, could be a really good play.
That was the sound of me Googling Iron Mountain market cap. 16 billion.
Did you hear it? Sound like cricket. 16 billion. Yeah, so I don't know what their debt ratio is now. Their debt to market cap ratio is right now. That's always a good question. But listen, I'm not passing judgment on whether it's a smart move, just kind of educating the audience on why a company would take $1 billion in debt out.
Yep. I think kind of more in our court, more interesting. Huntress raises a $60 million Series C. I believe they're kind of in the MDR space, focused on, I believe they have like an EDR product, that they've created an MDR service out of, if I'm not mistaken. And
they got a bunch. Yeah. They got a bunch of products. I actually know them well.
Because they kind of pivoted, didn't they?
Towards one of my fractional CMO.
Didn't they start as an automated pen testing type of firm?
You can't talk, Tyler.
Nope, I'm shut up. Put me on mute.
Denial
go ahead,
service.
Katie. They might have. I don't know their history. I even tried talking slowly, Adrian. I even hoping it would get out. Katie, I don't know the history of the firm. That's a great question. They may have pivoted, but I do know that they have a broad product line that really targets SMB to mid-market with like a one shop fits all kind of MDR, XDR. We provide cybersecurity if you're a law firm, a small law firm, or a small dental office. So their go-to-market is largely through partners, through MSPs, MSSPs that then sell on their behalf. That's what I know about them. And I also know they're doing very well in that space. They're targeting a market that's fairly untapped. One of my fractional CMO companies that I work with competes with them. So that's why I know Huntress fairly well.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen more than a few pivots into this kind of boil the ocean for the SMB. I don't want to say boil the ocean is kind of a negative way of saying it, but
right.
But that's kind of what you have to do in that market, right? Like an SMB is not going to buy 27-point products.
Yep, and what makes it really an interesting play on top of it is there's no direct to enterprise sale here. There's no direct motion. There's no PLG motion. The only way you get to the mass quantities of buyers, because the dollar signs are low, right? They're
right.
Hundreds of dollars to maybe $1,000 a month size deals, right? So you have to be a ticket taker, and the only way you can get the high enough volume to have that low of a deal size is to actually go through a channel play. And so most of these vendors target the MSPs that will, hey, I serve the greater Raleigh, Charlotte area of North Carolina, and I sell to 500 or 700 small to mid-sized businesses, and I maintain the security for those 700 businesses. It's a very interesting go-to-market model.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That it would be 100% channel, but yeah. So I mean, that's a good size Series C. Like we've seen MSSPs really blow up, and it's interesting to see it blow up on the SMB side of the market as well, not just the big folks out there, the mid-size.
That's right.
Yeah, growth from 1,500 partners and 25,000 customers to more than 4,000 partners and nearly 100,000 customers.
That makes total sense. They're saying they got 4,000 small to mid-sized regional managed service providers, localized IT providers that resell their products. That's why they're killing it.
Wow. That's a lot of 4,000 relationships to manage. Holy crap.
100%. Yeah, that's the hard part about building that go-to-market is you're not just selling to a couple hundred customers. You're selling to a few thousand MSPs that are then selling to 100,000 customers. It's a massive volume play.
They must have a dev team like one dev team just working on security technology and stuff like that, and another dev team just working on like the portals and stuff like that allow their partners to manage their customers. Like I bet that's a totally separate development effort there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
because it's got to be self-service.
If you didn't design your product to be MSP channel from the ground up, you would have had to retrofit a massive amount of technology in your product to support that go-to-market model. It doesn't work. Like you can't just create a product and then go, oh, let's retro this back to supporting 1,000 or 2,000 or even 4,000 partners. Like you have to have thought of that up front. You have to have designed that right into the product.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's, if that was something that they had done, those numbers, like that change in just the last year, like that's more than one partner's every day, 365, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not going to do that manually. You got to have some kind of software, some kind of automation to enable that. All right. Moving on. Let's see what else we've got here. Keeper Security, there's not really any details on this, but they had some funding, minority growth equity investment from Summit Partners. So Keeper's more than just a password database. You know, they have like a DevOps secret security secrets tool as well. So yeah, interesting to see. You know, I think most of the companies in this market, it looks like they have a privileged access management product now as well, Keeper PAM. So yeah, all the identity folks that I've seen seem to be doing pretty well. Like it's a good market for them, whether you're doing password databases or authentication and authorization. You know, most of these guys seem like they're doing really well. But we've got some acquisitions here and some acquisition rumors. So
rumors are my favorite.
I don't know. Like nobody's ever really explained to me like if this is exclusively an Israeli thing. But I've seen this so many times over my career where, you know, and there's just a handful. There's Calcalis Tech. You know, there's a handful of media companies out of Israel that will post these kinds of articles, but it looks like part of the negotiation process that they will leak information about an acquisition and they'll throw out some numbers, you know, I guess to see if they stick or like that somehow influences the negotiation. I'm not sure how that works, but I've seen it enough times that it's definitely a trend. And I don't think I've ever seen that on the U.S. side here.
Oh, it happens on the U.S. side too. It happened to a company I was involved with a while back. So here's the interesting thing about that. Think of it this way: if more than two people or more than one person knows something, it's impossible to keep a secret. I'm sure you've heard that saying. So there is a fair number of these things that are just, hey, 20 people know about the project. Somebody's going to leak something to somebody who tells somebody else who lets it get out. So that's
these feel intentional though, but don't they?
But that being said, there can be intentional techniques, such as, hey, we've got one suitor. We're working with Cisco, random company. We're working with Cisco. They're suiting. We're in negotiations. We're talking about it. I've signed something that says I can't say anything to anybody. It's, you know, complete non-disclosure. It's under lockdown. But if it happened to leak, I don't know where it came from. And then two other companies came in and gave offers. The idea is it drives up the overall valuation for the company being acquired, because now you have four suitors where you may have had one before who didn't know you were in play and you were in lockup. So that's another thing that often happens, is just to get more buyers to the table to make an offer.
Gotcha. And Laminar, I'm trying to remember, are they like a CSPM?
Believe so.
Yeah, I think they do something with cloud security.
Multi-cloud data security platform.
There DSPM. You go.
Multi-cloud DSPM.
Oh, DSPM.
LaminarSecurity.com. Data transforms your business. Laminar secures it. It's a multi-cloud data security posture manager.
Okay, well, that's interesting because one of our other acquisitions is another DSPM. IBM picks up Polar, and we had one of Polar's founders on Enterprise Security Weekly a little while back. I don't remember exactly which episode that was, but if you want to go back and check that one out, I can look it up real quick. Let me see how quickly I can find it.
So while you're looking that up with regards to the Polar acquisition, it says IBM plans to integrate Polar Security's DSPM technology within its Guardium family of leading data security products. It looks like IBM's picked this up to extend the cloud version of what they do, similar to the value proposition from Laminar, a more cloud-centric data security posture management style system, compared to Guardium, which is a little bit more of a traditional DLP model.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it looks like it was episode 286. We interviewed Roy Yakovi, and that was back in August 25th, 2022.
And it looks like this is just what you were talking about a minute ago. They've got, quote, multiple suitors, that's written on the release, and maybe hoping, hey, maybe there'll be another, a third group or a fourth group.
Get some competition going.
Not a terrible strategy the way media works these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can tell you though, I can tell you, Adrian, it can jump back and bite you in the ass. Because a lot of times when you do that, if nobody else comes to the plate, you've offended, even though they can't prove it was you've offended your original suitor, who will then walk away from a deal. And that's it. That's exactly, rumor has it, because I wasn't read into the situation, but that is a situation that I've run into in the past in previous companies, that somebody leaked it, whether it was the founders trying to get additional people to the table or it was an accidental leak. No one ever told me. But then my understanding was that the original suitor was like, oh, no, we don't play those games. You play those games, we're gone. Yeah. And they killed the whole deal.
Burned a bridge. Yeah.
Yep. And I don't know if that's what happened to my company or not. It was that I was no longer working there. So it was all rumors.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's interesting. It's these aren't small amounts of money, but it's amazing to me how emotional and effects like FOMO factor into these types of things. You'd think it would be a little bit more I don't know the right term, a little more sterile, doing a deal for $250 million or $1 billion or something like that.
Emotion. It's almost all emotion, Adrian. Now that being said, listen, it depends on the stage of acquisition you're doing. If you're acquiring a later stage company that has significant traction and significant track record of multi-years of growth and P&L and all the data to back the growth of the business, it's very academic in that scenario. And that's where most of your private equity buyers get into play. They just look at all the numbers and they go, can this cash flow me for 3 years, 5 years to return the investment, whatever. And that's a late stage. When you're talking early stage stuff, it's all strategic. It's all about, do you guys think that this is going to make your company, the buyer's company, better? Do you think it will? Really, that's what it tends to boil down to. What caught me about the Laminar piece, though, set to be acquired means they're probably going to be acquired. 200 to 250. That's a tiny little number. Nothing would get acquired with their level of buzz and reach that they achieved. To get 2 to 250 now, 2 years ago, that was a $500 million exit at least. Yeah. Right? It's just nobody would sell at 200 to 250. You'd sit on it for 2 more years, guaranteed, until you get big enough to get 500. What this shows me is that we're in hard times for younger cyber companies right now. And they're trying to find ways to either exit it at a nice little single or a double. Listen, they got $70 million invested to Laminar, and they just sold it for, let's call it 240 for 242. Let's call it 210. Let's call it a 3x, right? That makes the investors, okay, we got our money back plus a little bit of interest. Definitely not a good exit, but this market is tough right now for M&A.
I mean, that might be, 3 or 4x might be a good exit in this market. I don't know, because Polar raised.
It is a good exit.
Yeah, Polar was just seed, 8.5 million, and I would guess there's no numbers on that yet. I'm sure that'll eventually come out, but I would guess 50 or 60.
I'm going to crystal ball sub 50. I'm going to crystal ball sub 50
sub
for
50.
Polar.
Okay.
Yeah. It all depends on the revenue.
We'll call it a bet. We'll check back in on it later.
All right, the over under's 50. I got the under. You got the over.
Yeah, I got the over.
Yeah, they're saying the non-AI market is down 58%.
It's crushed.
Yeah, the non-AI market. Now we're dividing the whole market into AI and not AI.
Yeah, well, I just wrote a piece on it, so I'm like, I have data up the wazoo, but
yeah,
they said it was the worst market since something like, I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2017. We're still early in 2023, so it is yet to be seen. But just looking at the trends, this was, I think, on TechCrunch or CB, one of them. It's down so much. Even AI was down this month, this quarter from last quarter. So people are getting scared because when this whole thing started, they said 18 months to 2 years, and now we're over the 2-year mark, and people are still saying 18 months to 2 years.
Right.
So
yeah, I thought I know I added it. I don't know why it's not here, but your piece should have been in the show notes this week. So
that's
yeah, if you want to talk about that a bit, I totally intended for us to, but I'm just not seeing it here. So that's on me.
Tell us about your research, Katie. What did you write about?
Yeah.
So my latest article was about the AI market, and it was entitled "Is AI the Next Zero Trust?" So in a nutshell, it was because we come on this show every week, and you two fanboys are all like, AI. And there's a flip side to that as well. Like,
how dare you compare to zero trust?
How dare she?
Well, Tyler's like the AI fanboy and the anti-zero trust boy. But
yeah.
it's just there's so much likeness to what happened, at least how it's playing out in the media and marketing. I think the end result is going to be different. I do want to caveat that because Tyler, I know you read the first part of my piece, but you didn't get the second part because Tyler's mentioned in there. But there's so many parallels between what happened when zero trust burst onto the scene, said with sarcasm, in 2016, because it, as a concept, had been around since the early 2000s. It was coined as a term in 2009. Then, all of a sudden, it started coming into use in like 2016, 2017, 2018, and everybody's like, zero trust is going to change the world. Everything's going to be zero trust. And then it just became a marketing term. Now it's evening out, and people understand what it is better. And I think we're at an inflection point with AI too. I think people still don't quite get it. There are still companies out there calling machine learning AI. There's still people out there who think robots are taking over the world. It's not happening yet. And there are some really, really big problems that we have to fix before we let the robots loose. I know, Tyler, you're going to be the first one to have a robot in your house doing your work, 100%. Talking to us on this show.
And I'll also be the first one that gets killed by a robot, just saying.
Yeah. Awesome. Maybe it'll happen on camera during a podcast recording.
You could only wish, because the viral nature of that would just skyrocket you guys.
And of course, yeah, you're thinking of the ratings.
It's funny. All about the ratings.
So that is now story number 19, Katie. I got that added to the show notes here. We now have 22 stories. Thank you very much. Yeah, it might take a minute for it to show.
It was really interesting for me to look at the data because, and especially, I was pretty lucky that CB put out their first quarter results the day before it was supposed to be published. So I had to go back in and write some new stuff. So it was pretty cool to look at what's actually happening compared to the amount of noise you hear about it. And, there is a lot of noise. I'm not saying there's not, but to see what's actually happening in the finance market is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and you made a great comment in our back channel chat here. When I was talking about, you think there'd be logically that there'd be less emotions in some of these huge deals. But yeah, and you said, haven't you watched Succession? But yeah, between that, digging into Theranos and WeWork, and we actually have a story here about Softbank, Masayoshi-san, who dumped a ton of money into WeWork, and just I don't know if it was him personally, but Softbank just dumped a ton more money, another $100 million into Cybereason. We talked about that last week. So is it any surprise that they're down $39 billion?
No, it's not a surprise at all. As a matter of fact, if you think back to shows we were doing in 2021, and I'm sure if we dig them up, you'll hear my commentary about the amount of capital going into cybersecurity startups, or security startups in general, not even cyber, just technology startups in general, had hit ludicrous speed. Like, they hit plaid, man. Everything was going crazy where it didn't matter. Here's $100 million for you, $100 million for you, $700 million for you, $1 billion for you. It got loony. And when that starts to happen, somebody's going to be left holding the bag. And it looks like SoftBank was left holding a lot of bags.
I've heard Masayoshi-san's investment strategy described as basically like good vibes. You just throwing it. I mean, one of the biggest funds that's out there, right? Between this and Tiger Global, these are huge funds. Yeah.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about that, there's two really cool parts about that. One is, their investment strategy really was index technology. It doesn't matter what it is. We're going to buy into it if it's a tech company. And the idea here is that one of them that hits escape velocity and turns into the next Wiz or the next whatever $20 billion exit, we're going to win enough on that one to write off all our failures, right? That was the investment philosophy. Yeah. And when you're talking small dollar signs, that actually tends to work. When you're talking big dollar signs, you quickly get capped out on the ability to hit the wins on those, right? And so that's where their investment strategy fell down. That's where they got burned. The question is, can Tiger or SoftBank turn it around? I think the results of this is, from an investing world, your $1 billion plus funds are going to be few and far between going forward. You're just not going to see investors pulling together $1 billion, $2 billion, $10 billion for projects anymore, because the upside's not there in a power law model. So what you're finding is the rise of the micro investor, the folks that are raising 10, 15, 20 cap and putting that to work in a very focused vertical approach. Because then if they hit their one winner, they get a massive return. The returns are almost unlimited.
Right. Yeah, that's and man, things have shifted so fast between the market shifting fast and generative AI. Like it's been a heck of a. I'm glad we have a weekly show. I think it'd be tough to follow some of these trends if we were only on once a month. Because we'd be contradicting ourselves constantly. That's not often enough to even follow some of these trends.
Yeah, the changes are super fast right now. It's absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
I mean, and the one thing that hit me yesterday, I know this is stupid to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, and whoever's watching is going to be like, wow, that is really stupid. It took her this long. But investors aren't necessarily investing in the next big tech or the next big thing to make the industry better, more efficient, whatever. They're investing in the next thing they think can make them money. And sometimes those things go hand in hand. But sometimes they're just betting on the buyer community going hog wild over something that they don't even think will be hog wild.
Like enterprise browsers.
Enterprise browsers.
Old die on that hill. Yeah, apparently there's a ton of them now. There's like over a dozen. I think Island and Talon are still the really big ones. But I was chatting with somebody the other day, and they're like, oh, no, there's all kinds that are like, they're not building the browser from the ground up, but they have like browser extensions and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see that play out.
Mm-hmm.
We got one more acquisition here. We got Absolute Software, which has been around for a long time. They've got more products than I was aware of. Like the one thing I think of when I think Absolute is the low jack for laptops thing, where they're baked into BIOSes, and you try to recover a stolen laptop basically, because you can't remove them from the BIOS. But they go to the web page and there's a ton of other stuff there as well. But yeah, that looks like is that a PE deal? What is that?
Yeah, it's a post IPO PE deal. So Absolute's a publicly traded company, and it's taking a majority interest. I don't know if it's a complete take private or a majority interest. I imagine it's a complete take private. I think it is by Crosspoint Capital. They're taking the whole thing private. They're going to respin it, probably rework a few things, add some leverage, and then you'll see them come back out public in another few years when the market comes back. That's why this is such a hot time for PE take privates, because the market is so depressed. Take privates that happen now, you don't even have to really win. The market's going to rebound in N years, and then you don't even have to change anything in the company. You just hold it and then sell it off.
Yeah, makes sense. As long as whatever that company's doing isn't going away or anything like that. I think of, I don't know, companies who store data backups in mountains.
That's where all data backups go, right in the mountains.
Subtle reference. Subtlety is my forte.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Let's see. So, a couple of trends here. The America's Most Connected Cities thing came from a weird place. So I actually reached out to Ookla, who, if you've ever gone to speedtest.net, they own speedtest.net. So they've got this huge amount of data on internet speeds all over the world. And somebody pitched me a story that was basically saying, like, Tennessee was the most, I think was the second or third most connected state in the U.S. I was like, that doesn't sound right. Number one on that list was South Dakota. I was like, what?
That don't sound right.
So, but there was no, whatever PR team sent me this thing, there was no link to it online. Like, it was all just in the email. Like, I couldn't find any of these stats shared anywhere online. So I reached out to Ookla and I was like, what do you think about these stats? Do you have any data that can help prove this out? And they basically sent me this, what I've linked to here. They don't have state level stuff, but they do have city level. And then I got another separate pitch, story pitch on like who's falling for the most scams, like state by state, who's getting hit the most. And there comes South Dakota again, like punching up to the top of the list. Like, the highest average loss per person of any state was South Dakota, which was like $23,000 per person lost in like ransomware, romance scams, like all that kind of stuff, like personal level.
So what you're saying, Adrian, is giving high-speed internet access to stupid people is not a good idea.
I think you just insulted everybody from South Dakota, but okay.
I just pissed off like all 7 people of our audience that live in South Dakota, though.
I think that's probably a high number, but yeah.
I just kid. I kid South Dakota people. I'm making jokes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a really weird combination of like I just get all this data thrown at me, and like the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, how complete is this data? How biased is this data? What's the methodology? And there's just not a lot of details on it, so I just included that just because there's a lot of stuff when you're running a podcast or doing marketing for a company. Like some of the crap that makes its way into your inbox can be kind of interesting. Like funny, interesting, like maybe not useful, interesting, but that was some of the funny, interesting stuff that hit my inbox. And thanks to Ookla for so quickly pointing me at some actual published data.
Yeah, well, I'll have you know I live in one of the best cities for fixed broadband speeds down in Raleigh.
for broadband.
You want to say your full address on air too, Tyler?
You're listed for worst, one of the worst for 5G availability, though.
Yeah, because I have broadband. I never leave my house. I live in Raleigh, so I don't ever have to leave the house. And no, Katie, I will not be saying my address because I might get emails or might get physical bomb mails from South Dakota. So no, I won't be saying
now you will, yeah.
Yeah.
So I learned like one of the most connected 5G places in the world apparently is Finland. And I'm guessing that's because it's really tough to roll fiber everywhere. Like it's big. There's inclement weather a lot of the year, so they just use 5G. Like 5G is your broadband in your home. 5G isn't just for mobile phones. Like you just use that for the whole home. That's your broadband up there, apparently. Random fact.
Well, when your average temperature in parts of your country is like 35 degrees, nobody wants to go outside and talk to anybody else.
Or 2 degrees if you're in that part of the world. That would be 2 degrees. There's somewhere around there.
That's true.
Celsius, yeah.
I just Googled it, and because I live in the U.S., it very kindly gave me Fahrenheit.
Yeah, right. So number 16, I thought you'd be interested in, Tyler. AI trends, Botsonic.
Yeah.
Build your own ChatGPT for your website.
Oh,
so this is something. This is something I predicted that would happen with generative AI, with large language models. Is basically it replaces your call centers, your support models, your knowledge base. Like you don't need a FAQ or a knowledge base anymore. You just feed all that information into a bot, and you just ask it a question, and it answers it.
Yeah, I'm not shocked or surprised at this at all. What I really want, and trust me, I've installed a bunch of them. I have probably like 2 or 3 installed locally, and I have signed up for some services ones. What I really want is this for my personal life, for every meeting face-to-face I do, every conversation I do online.
So you
Zoom.
haven't found that yet?
I've tried. I was playing with 2 of them all day today. I've half rolled my own. There's nothing that's quite there yet, but there's a couple that show promise. And once they get to the point where they are really baked and working well, I will definitely let you know.
I thought Neva was doing that. Are you familiar with Neva?
I don't know. No, I'm not. How do you spell it?
So NEEVA. So the idea of it is it would both be public internet search and private search. So you connect your data stores and stuff to it, and it allows you to search. So when you do a search, like you're not distinguishing searching my stuff and searching public stuff. It all just gets searched. You plug a search into their search bar. They replace Google as your search engine. But in addition to public results, you also get private results.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Thesis. Yeah, so that's a piece of what I want. But what I want is I want it to be smart. So what I want is I want to wake up every day and have in my inbox, or even if I have to open a URL to the service, I don't really care. But it'll say, hey, here's the meetings you have today. Here's the background with each person, the history. Oh, by the way, you haven't connected with Adrian in 2 months. It's time for you to connect with Adrian because whatever. And you guys were talking about this cool thing that was a great idea. I want that brain memory, right? I want a virtual assistant that is that level of detail, and nobody has it yet.
Don't you invest in startup companies?
Yes, please.
So start up your own damn company.
I don't invest. I don't build them. I invest in them. Although I do build them too. But I've thought about it. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the AI background. I needed an AI scientist to help me.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of building a business is you hire people, right? Find the smart people. But yeah, I mean, that's got to be.
You know what though? I'll be honest with you. I'm behind. If I did it today, I'd be behind because there are 2 or 3 that are going in the right direction that are getting close, and it's going to happen.
That's what I was going to say. Like there have got to be companies that are at least pointed in the direction of what you're describing.
For sure. Yeah. No. And that's why I'm not doing it myself, because one of them is going to get there and give me what I need. But the problem is right now I can sign up for, and I have signed up for 2 or 3 different like note-taking systems that connect up to Zoom and take all the notes and send you everything. I home rolled my own, but that doesn't connect to a version of the same thing that does it for Gmail, and a version of the same thing that does it for Calendar, and a version of the same thing that does it for all my Google Docs or my Notion notes. Like everybody's still isolated in these silos for those 5 areas.
Yeah.
I want one ring to rule them.
That's a lot of access.
I don't care.
That's going to be
I'm not a security guy.
But yeah, no, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
I'll bet
totally
you, Adrian,
get what you're saying. Yeah.
I'll bet you it's here by the end of the year.
I'd be surprised if it wasn't at the speed things are. We were just talking about how fast things are moving. So we will cover it when it does on this podcast, and we'll get to see Tyler celebrate.
Absolutely. I would drink to that. You know what?
Perhaps he'll do double duty, because I think part of his mentioning this every week is hoping that somebody hears him and calls him or emails him, so that can become part of his chatbot, so he can be reminded to talk to them. And then he gets to.
If you want a customer and an evangelist in one, and maybe also an angel investor, here you go, folks. And you're building this product.
I will tell you.
One-stop shop.
I will tell you, if this happens by the end of the year, which I predict that it will, the next company that should be started, whether it's by me or somebody else, is security of that data. A company that can overlay, look into what that company is doing, and then give you a level of security in that that universe, so you can have a true personal privacy setup where it's like, no, this stuff doesn't get put into my executive AI. This stuff does, this stuff doesn't. Like, that would be the next phase, but that'll be next year. All
right. Some great predictions there. I can't wait to see some of that unfold. Yeah. So 2 things that are kind of related here. Number 13, why more transparency around cyber attacks is a good thing for everyone. This is one of my soapboxes I love to stand on. And then along with that, number 17 is a postmortem from Dragos, where they are very transparent and provide a bunch of details into an attack that affected them. But sounds like the attack didn't get very far. But the amount of details they gave, and they put this together, like this thing happened on May 8th, I think, and they had the full write-up ready on May 10th. So they smacked down this attack and wrote up the whole thing and published it in 2 days.
So my question on that, let's start with Dragos first, Adrian, before we go to your other soapbox.
Sure.
Why are you putting out a bunch of transparency on something that didn't actually result in an attack, a successful attack? I don't understand that. Am I missing something?
I think so. So it builds a lot of trust, like just transparency in general. And at the same time, it kind of shows their expertise in this area, because based on what they're selling is their expertise in, detection and response platforms. They also have visibility stuff, but they do a lot of IR and things like that. So this is just an opportunity for them to flex and basically show like here's who we are, here's what we do.
You took it there, Adrian. This is just an opportunity for them to flex. And that's why when I read this, I was kind of like, okay, great work, guys. I love it. Really good work. And you're putting out a good story. This feels to me like this was just an opportunity for them to flex, because
it's like,
it is sales collateral. As long as we know what we're getting, then we can read it and be educated by it. That's wonderful. But let's not over-index into this thing and say, hey, the breach occurred and they were really good at finding it or whatever. This is just sales collateral. Really good sales collateral.
But you know what? I'm going to eat it up, because as much as people can share how attacks are happening, what tools they're using, what techniques they're using, there's just never going to be enough of that for me until it becomes regulated and required to have more transparency into how these attacks happen. Because the people getting attacked, there are very rarely any new attacks out there.
Yeah.
Like almost every ransomware case I look at, I'm like, that was a pen test I did in 2008.
Yeah.
Like step by step, exactly how a pen test was done 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And you fell for it.
So cyber marketers take note.
Yeah.
Cyber marketers take note, Adrian. All they got to do is just go to their SOC team and look up the most recent near breach, and let's write an article on it. Like, no, and I'm serious. I'm not saying this tongue in cheek. Like that. Like most companies have that capability right now.
Yeah. True. Yeah, and we just need to get past this. I've got to hide anything that's negative. That happened to my company. Like even like Riot Games, who makes League of Legends, promised back in January that they would share the details of how the attack went down that they got hit with back in January, and they haven't done that yet. And I have not forgotten Riot. I'm still checking. I'm checking for that report.
Come on, Riot people, step up.
I do talks on this stuff, and I think it's one of the number one things that's missing. Like, we've got the people, we got the budget, we buy the products, but we need to study how failures happen in our industry. And to be able to do that, we need details of failures.
Or in this case, successes.
Exactly. Or successes. Exactly. And those really don't get shared because, again, there's the kind of the fear of, if I share how I stopped an attack, then that won't work anymore, or something like that. The fear that, that transparency will somehow ruin your good luck, right?
I agree. This is a sales tactic and, thought leadership, so to speak. And I also agree that there should be more sharing. But you got to remember, from a non-security point of view, there are a lot of companies. Dragos is a special type of company, right? They're a special type of company. They're not your typical company. There are going to be a lot of companies whose legal teams say
they have a particular set of skills, you might say.
Yeah.
And you're right. Right, Kate. NFW.
Special set of skills, Liam. But there are a lot of legal teams that will say absolutely not. And, that it's a non-security point of view. And from a security point of view, one thing could be great or right or whatever. But from the legal point of view, and you've got those people who are going to wield way more power. So there are going to be a lot of companies who can't because their arms are tied.
Yeah. Yep. All right. I think it is time to get into our squirrel stories.
Squirrel.
So number 22, Gandalf is basically like a capture the flag / training tool that company Lakera.ai put together, and they basically try to secure your getting a keyboard in the face. How rude. Yeah. For those listening, there are squirrels. There's a squirrel overlay on the screen, and we're messing with it. It's a visual gag. But so Lakera protects AI models and machine learning and stuff like that. Particularly large language models. So this is there's 7 levels here, and first level has no protection whatsoever. The large language model is given a secret and told not to share it. The first level, it's not told not to share it, so it's very easy to get past that. But there's 7 levels, and it gets increasingly more difficult to trick the large language model into giving up that secret. And I got to level 7 and I got stuck there. I got really frustrated because it took me like 30 minutes to get to level 7. And then I just could not make it past it, which I guess is the point of it. Like, if you get past it, they give you some swag. But, again, this is both marketing and a flex, them showing that the work that they do actually works. So I don't know.
Freaking love this. It is so cool. Such a smart idea. I just beat first level when, not that was hard, right, Adrian? Right. I think this is I don't even think this is a squirrel story. I think this is a killer story. I think this should be in the regular story list.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. No, I would agree with that. And it's a great way to get familiar with large language model AI if you haven't played around with it. So Gandalf.lakera.ai. It's in the show notes. I think it's the final squirrel story. Go in there, see if you can get past level 7. First 10 people to get past it I don't know if that's already happened, if 10 people have completed it, but they get some kind of special swag. I don't know what the special swag is.
And tweet at Adrian if you beat his time to get through all first 6 levels, or if you beat the 7th level faster than he could, because you haven't beat the 7th level, right?
Nope, I have not been able to complete it. I have a browser tab open somewhere that I refuse to close because then I have to go back to the beginning. But I wrote down I know all the passwords for the first 6.
So I will tell you, Adrian, I just tried to beat level 2 while we were talking, and I'm going to take full credit for this. Our show just overwhelmed them. They just got rate limited by Chat GPT and the API, so they can't make any more requests right now. So I'm going to say our live show did that. So just bear that in mind. Taking credit.
100%. It was us.
Yep.
All right, another squirrel story here. I am a sucker for gadgets, and I've been really getting into Beeper, which is kind of like a Trillion, if you remember that, or a Pigeon for 2023. Basically takes all your chats, consolidates them into one client. So WhatsApp, Twitter DMs, SMS, all the different places that you chat. All thrown into one client. I've been enjoying it. It's still kind of like it's not open to the public. It's like you have to sit in a queue to get access to it. And I've had access for about a month now, and I've been loving it. And just for fun, they put together this. This is not like a polished product. It's basically like something for hackers and people to play around with. There's not even a case on it. It's exposed breadboard. But they put together a device with an e-ink display, a lithium-ion battery, flopping around on the back. Like I said, it doesn't even have a case. And they put a BlackBerry keyboard on it. And I just couldn't say no to that. It was $80 and I ordered one. And it's all powered by one of the small Raspberry Pi Zeros.
And it connects to all your chats?
Yeah, so there's a list. I mean, it doesn't support everything, but I think it does do Slack. It does do, let me find the main website here. iMessage, Facebook Messenger, Slack, Instagram, DMs. So there's a lot of places where you have chat with people in the DM. So it's not bringing tweets and Instagram posts to you. It's just the DM portion. LinkedIn DMs. I just use one client for all my DMs across LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, all these places. Just brings it into one place.
Very cool.
Yeah, because I've got 17 apps on my phone. Oh, Discord also is another one. I've got 17 apps on my phone just to chat with people. Google Chat's in there. Telegram's in there. Signal is in there.
Installing now.
Option.
Do you have that many people you want to talk to?
No.
Well, the funny thing is, Facebook Messenger, my family. That's it. My sister, my mom, and my dad. That's the only people I use that for. So it's frustrating to have an app installed just to talk to 3 people. And some of these others, like WhatsApp, is kind of the same. I have some international friends who use WhatsApp. So there's 5 people I use WhatsApp for. And then there's, another 3 on Instagram. And there's a ton of people on LinkedIn. I do a lot of messaging on LinkedIn, especially for this podcast. When I'm trying to find people to interview and inviting them to come on the show, I'll use that. I get a lot of random stuff on LinkedIn as well. Twitter DM is my main way of contacting a lot of people. Yeah, so it's just it's nice to have it all in one place. And now I'm going to have a hardware device that does that for me.
You'll have a half a hardware device.
Half a hardware device and unfinished. Yeah, I'll have to see if I can get somebody to 3D print me, somebody I can pay to 3D print a case for it, because I think they actually have some case designs for it. Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, that last squirrel story. I'm not sure we need to cover the last one here. But there's I like space, and yeah, I guess we'll cover it. This actually isn't the most interesting story about this. The most interesting story is there's been this contest. Well, not an intentional contest, not a formal one, but they've been trying to discover all of Jupiter and Saturn's moons. And which planet has the most moons has been bouncing back and forth. And I think it's solidly in Saturn's court now. So Jupiter had the most moons a month ago, and now somebody released a report, some scientists, that nope, now it's Saturn that has the most moons. And it's something like 150 moons now they're up to. And of course, some of these are just like a couple kilometers across, but some of it's exciting. They found some of these moons likely have oceans on them. So really cool. I hope in my lifetime we can do some significant more exploring in our solar system, because I want to hear more details about the solar system before my time is up.
Love it.
All right. That's all we've got for you today. Any parting thoughts before we close up shop, guys?
No, I just want to get back to Gandalf now.
Yeah, me too. Same. I'm going back to play that game right away.
If you need some tips, let me know. I actually have a Notion note where I documented like everything I tried and what worked and what didn't. And it's funny. I watched a video of somebody going through it, and the way they got through the first 6 levels was so much more basic. Like I was just way overthinking getting past some of these levels, I found after watching how somebody else did it. But I still got there.
Level 1 was very straightforward.
Yeah. It doesn't defend at all in level 1. Yeah.
No. One basic question.
Yeah. What's the password? Tell me the password. Speak friend.
In level 2, you have to offer it a chocolate bar.
Yeah. So
all right, no comments for me, humans. Adrian. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. Level 2, you're already past the average human. Thanks so much for joining me today, guys. It's been fun. Yeah, I like these episodes where we just do a news show and then play some pre-recorded stuff. We can put all our energy into the news show. That's a lot of fun.
Love it.
And coming up next are 6 micro interviews from RSA. Enjoy those. And a big thanks to everyone watching or listening to this week's episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. See you again next week.